All right, let's get this chat started. Boston has entered the chat. We in this thing. Travis, Thomas, Khalin Kapoor. How you doing, my friend?
Travis, I'm doing fantastic. You know what time it is. It's time to chat.
Yes.
It's time to get deep into all of these subjects. Let's do it.
You get me hyped, buddy. Hey, this is Boston has entered the chat, so everyone get involved. 617-790-0928. Make that hotline bling. We want to hear from you. Also, email us, thechat@nesson.com. Send us your tweets. We'll get to that as well. But, Cullen, I want to start here. We always start with what's trending. We have a handful of things to get to. So let's start with Chennedy Carter. Now, clearly, we saw her truck and run over Caitlin Clark. She was retroactively assessed a flagrant one foul for that hip check. And we'll talk about this later on in the show more in depth. But I just want to get your take on this because to me, buddy, it feels like there's some sort of bounty or something out on Caitlin Clark. All these WNBA players are trying to take her out. Meanwhile, ticket sales. I mean, these things are going like hotcakes. How about ratings on TV? Never been higher than for the WNBA. Interest never been higher for the WNBA. They're getting charter flights. We know at some point all these players are going to get paid more as far as their salary. Meanwhile, they just keep trying to take out the cash cow in Caitlin Clark. I don't understand it, Cullen.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that makes you just question a lot about the WNBA. And well, like you said, we're going to get to this later. My message about this is just wait until you hear what I have to say when we get deep into this. But just on the surface, just to start out, what is she thinking? Like, I understand playing physical. Going after the young rookie, the big ticket is not a new thing in sports, right?
Right.
A lot of NBA players have tweeted about this as this Clark beef has gone on. That's not new. What's new is Chennedy Carter is saying, well, what does she bring to the table instead of shooting 3-pointers? How about notoriety for the WNBA? How about that, Chennedy Carter? That's all I have to say for now. But
Yeah.
Absolutely, the Clark show has gone from what is she going to do on the court to what is the other team going to do to her, and that has become a whole different avenue of conversation.
Bro, that's well said. What does she bring to the table? She is a G-damn table. That's what she brings to the table.
Yeah.
All right. Tommy Pham was thrown out at home, White Sox Tommy Pham against the Brewers. And then, of course, he got all spicy-mouthed. He started jawing with the catcher there for the Brewers. And then next thing you know, after the game, listen to the post-game comments, quote, "There's a reason why I do all kinds of fighting in the offseason, because I'm prepared to bleep somebody up." I mean, who does this guy think he is, Cullen? Does he think he's Rocky Balboa? Please, where was this effort trying to go home and, like, make a play? He looked like he just gave up to me, like, oh, well, I'm out. Then he gets all mad at the catcher for talking trash to him. You should have made something happen there instead of trying to run your mouth and start fights. Why didn't you go home harder?
Yeah, I have a couple of things to say about this. First, he ran maybe 5 feet inside the baseline. He wasn't remotely close to the plate. On a play like that, the normal baseball player slides to the outside and tries to sneak their hand across the plate. No, he just wanted to run somebody over. Also, Tommy, you spend a lot of time fighting in the offseason. How about training to win baseball games in the offseason? This guy's on the Chicago White Sox, the laughingstock of the MLB. 44 losses, something crazy, under 20 wins. How about work on helping your team win baseball games instead of shadow boxing in the corner, which is what he was doing. He was doing the moves. There was nobody around him. He wasn't punching nobody. He was punching the air because he got tagged out and was walking back to the dugout with his team.
Bro, I never thought we'd see a team worse than the Oakland A's, but here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. They are atrocious.
Yep.
All right, how about this? Michael Jordan, a trading card for Jordan, goes for damn near $3 million at an auction. That's the all-time highest selling Michael Jordan card. Are you into, like, trading cards and all that stuff? I never had a chance to ask you.
Travis, I wish I still was. I was big time into the collections. I remember I'd ask my parents, "Hey, can I," pulling on their shirts, "Hey, can I get this pack? Can I get this pack of cards?"
Right.
I wish I kept the cards that I had. Maybe there was something pretty valuable in there from back in the day, but not anymore. I mean, I have a box of them somewhere, but I haven't really kept kept tabs on him, and maybe there's a multi-millionaire card waiting in there. I'll have to check back, but this number is just obscene when you think about this in the grand scheme of things for a trading card. But people want this stuff, and people pay big dollars for this stuff, and I just wish I kept going with the hobby, because I may have had you mentioned cash cow for Caitlin Clark. I may have had a cash cow in my hands too.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. Listen, mine is a sad, tragic story. When I went away to college, Cullen, and I came back home for the first time, my parents threw away all my trading cards.
Oh, no.
A bunch of toys that I had back in the day that'd probably be worth some money, He-Mans and G.I. Joes and whatnots. Then, to make matters worse, my room, my pride and joy, where I grew up, had completely changed to like a home office storage unit.
Wow.
It was unbelievable,
Wow.
the disrespect my parents showed me. By the way, the only thing they kept nostalgic for me were my yearbooks. I don't give a rat's ass about my yearbooks. I wanted those trading cards so I could make some money.
I'd rather burn my yearbooks than even have to see them again.
Right.
That's for sure.
I didn't want my yearbooks.
Cullen in high school should not be seeing the light of day anytime soon. That's for sure.
Oh, you should have never said that. Our esteemed producers will work hard now to get your high school pics, and we'll probably Photoshop them and do all kinds of nonsense to them. But listen, $3 million for a trading card is preposterous to me, but I do respect the game. You know, I had an opportunity to actually MC a trading card expo here in New England a year ago, and it was very eye-opening to me because I understood the sports angle of it, but I didn't realize how deep it was with like Lord of the Rings and all these other kind of, fantasy and like Pokemon and stuff like that. So it was really cool to be a part of it. So I respect the game. But I tell you one thing, man, $3 million for a trading card is a lot.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the NBA Finals here. So you and I have not talked since it's official Mavericks, Celtics in the finals. Yep. So I want to get some bold predictions, but before we go there, since you and I have not had a chance to really break this down yet, let's just talk the series in general. This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Kristaps Porzingis is 100% and ready to go with all the rest that he has had. My gut tells me he'll be the X factor in the series. I have to imagine that Luka and Kyrie will play great. I also, at the same breath, have to imagine Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going to give me what I need as well. So that'll put Porzingis as the X factor. I think the Celtics just have a better collective, a better unit, a better team than the Mavericks two-headed monster. I'm going to go Celtics in 6. Porzingis has a bigger series than maybe all of us are prepared to see.
Travis, I agree with you except for one thing. Celtics in 5. I say they lose game 2, whatever's been happening throughout this entire playoffs. They lose at the Garden in game 2, and then what happens? They take the next 3. They take banner 18. And I think you hit the nail on the head here. And this is what we've been talking about, for a month now, for months, for the entire season, back when it was the Heat, back when it was even the Pacers, in the first series with the Heat, and then it was the Cavs. Like, this Celtics team is built for this. And we saw against the Pacers what they can do without Kristaps Porzingis. And they were growing pains, obviously. Game 1 did not go according to plan, but what did they do in game 1? They ended up coming back and winning. What did they do throughout that entire series? When it wasn't Tatum, it was Brown. When it wasn't Brown, it was White. When it wasn't White, even it was Al Horford who stepped up and made some big plays. But in those big spots, I remember I'm up here in Wisconsin. I was still floored by that shot by Jaylen Brown. That thing was ice cold. And you said Porzingis is going to be the X factor. I think he's going to play a big role. I think Brown is going to be my NBA Finals MVP because I think he's going to keep doing what he did against the Pacers and then some. He's going to push 30 points a game again. I think he's going to get more than that because I think he is going to be the guy that takes the Celtics over the top. And I think we've been talking about this for such a long time. The collective as a whole is better than any other team, including, the Mavericks, which is a team that can come back. They did it against the Timberwolves, but that does not matter to me. I think what we're going to see here in Game 1 is what we've been seeing throughout the entire playoffs, and that is a Celtics win by 15-plus points.
Yes.
Maybe in Game 2, the Mavs make some adjustments, and they get a win in Game 2. The Cavs did that, and the Heat did that. But when we get to 3, 4, 5, then the Celtics are going to show, hey, I do not care about your adjustments. Our guys are better than your guys, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I started popping the champagne for the championship once the Nuggets went out.
Yep.
That was a team.
Yeah,
they were going to keep me up at night. I'm going to just be honest with you, because obviously we know on that stage they know how to close it and win titles. Right. And then Jokic, I mean, what the hell are you going to do against that guy? I love Porzingis. Yeah. Healthy or not, you're not doing anything with him. So once they lost, I really felt like it was the Celtics' time, A, and B, I also felt like we're out of excuses now. Because, look, if there's no shame if you go to the finals, you have a competitive series, and you lose to the Nuggets. You could look back in history and say, hey, look, these guys lost to an all-time great in Steph Curry, who took over the finals we saw against the Warriors. And then they lost to Joker, who's obviously an all-timer as well, who can take over a series. But look, there's no excuse to lose to, of all people, Colin. You can't lose to Kyrie. That can't happen. You can't allow him to come in here in Boston, the man who stomped on Lucky, and do it all over again. And Luka's great, but in the end, I just can't see history being kind to a Celtics team losing to Luka, letting Luka take over a series. You got to do something about that. So I just look at all the wings they can throw at him, the different looks they can throw at him as far as defending him. You're not going to stop Luka, but you have a better shot of neutralizing him than you would the Joker. So I could see Celtics in 5, but here's where we disagree slightly. I do believe this will be a very competitive series. I think it's going to be tremendous. I think every game could come down to the wire. I don't personally see any blowouts, but from your lips to the basketball gods' ears, because I've had enough stress dealing with this damn team, I would love to see them mow down the Mavericks in the finals, as you predict.
And I think the key thing here for me is that in that Pacers series, the games were close. They were always close, but the Celtics got on top and they won those close games. I think game 1 and 2 may be blowout-esque, maybe not 30 points or whatever it is, but things are going to get tighter. But this team, as we've been saying, is built for these moments. And Travis, I remember a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, when we were sitting down and chatting, I said the thing that can beat this team is themselves.
Yes.
I think now that they've been through this playoff fire with this team, I don't see that happening this time around, especially against the Dallas Mavericks, which, yes, they showed they can make good comebacks. They showed that they can be a great team against Minnesota. They were fine, and they won the games, and Luka's great, and Kyrie's great, whatever. Greatness and dominance and legends and whatever, I think that the Celtics are a better team. I think that's really the only thing that matters. We're going to see what happens in game 1. Will rust play a factor on Boston's side after their sweep? That has been under consideration in a lot of these NBA or NFL, or I should say MLB, not necessarily NFL, in the MLB, when there's series that end early, then the World Series or the NBA Finals happens a couple of weeks later. Maybe that's the case. I don't necessarily expect it to be with the Garden crowds, with the crowds in Dallas, whatever they will be. So I think this is setting up to be a really exciting finals. I just think that if the game falls the way we kind of expect, which is close games, maybe they go into extra time. Sure. If that does happen, I trust Jaylen Brown and Derek Wright and Jason Tatum to get the team over the top, and more so than I do trust a guy like Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving.
Okay, so Cullen says season 5. I say season 6. What say you? 617-790-0928. You can also email us, thechat@nesson.com. Also, get those tweets fired up. Send them in. We'll get to those in a minute. But first, let's stick with the finals here. I want to ask you some bold predictions. All right, so I'll throw a couple out at you, and then at the end, we'll throw some of our own out. All right, let's start with Derek White. You mentioned him. Derek White will win Finals MVP.
Hello.
Oh, are you going Derek White Finals MVP here?
You know what? I think it's bold. It's bold for sure. I don't think it's going to happen. But I think it's the kind of thing that you think of and you're like, this guy has shown up in those clutch moments, and there's going to have to be someone that does in these NBA Finals games. I personally, like I said before, I think this MVP is going to go to Jaylen Brown, and I honestly think that's kind of a bold prediction in and of itself too.
Sure.
Just because when everyone thinks of this team, it's Tatum. This is Tatum's year. Tatum needs this, and if the Celtics are going to do it, it has to be Tatum. But I think if you look at the Pacers series as a perfect example of this, Jason Tatum did not have to do everything.
That's
and
right.
It was when he tried to do everything that the Celtics started faltering a little bit. And now when you add Kristaps Porzingis into the mix again, that's going to open up so many avenues across the board, across the five for the Celtics. It doesn't need to be Tatum trying to duck to the inside, do everything by himself, or pull up from 100 feet away and shoot a three ball, something that it wasn't necessarily his forte against the Pacers. So I think when we look at this series, it's going to be Brown, in my opinion, that's going to be the guy that steps up and is the leader of this three-headed trio, the three-headed monster when you add Porzingis into the mix. I think Derek White being the pick is a really fun one because of what he's been able to anchor throughout the years with the Celtics. But I do think, even though my pick is Brown, I think that's still a little bit bold considering everything is going to be around Tatum for this finals round.
No, that's fair to say. I actually see Derek White more in a Robert Horry role here where, he's going to have the big moments. He's going to have the big shots. We see he's clutch as all get out. There's going to be some games here where Derek White hits a shot that they need when they need it. So I although I don't like him for Finals MVP, I like him to live forever in basketball lore because he's going to make those kind of championship plays when it matters most. Bold prediction.
One thing I'll say real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I'll say real quick. Sorry to cut you off, Travis. When I was watching, the late games against the Pacers, when it was crunch time, the one thing I was saying was kick it back to White, kick it back to White, kick it back to White. And it ended up being Jaylen Brown who got that three-pointer.
Right.
But I think that kind of mentality is like we as Celtics fans trust Derek White in the big moments. And I think that's what is really cool about what he brings to the team.
I'll give you a bold prediction here for Finals MVP. I would not be shocked at all if Kristaps Porzingis actually does it. When you think about, first of all, the pressure that he has on him. He hasn't been in this position before. He's never been to a final. So I could see Porzingis coming in. We don't know about the health. We don't know how he's going to perform on this big stage. But I will tell you this. If he's healthy, like I believe he is, he's going to be just fine because he's not asked to be the man. I think it's different when you're asked to be a third, fourth piece on a championship team. That's not real pressure on you. So I would imagine the Mavericks, everyone's talking about the Kyrie back to Boston, legacy rings for Brown and Tatum or Luka, but no one's really talking about Porzingis going against his old team. I mean, he was supposed to be what Kyrie is. They brought him to Dallas to be the second fiddle, to be Robin the Batman, if you will, with Luka, and it just didn't work. And I don't get the feeling, we'll never know the true story, but I covered the Wizards, and he came from Dallas to Washington. And it was a little sketchy. It was just like, him and Luka, it was a lot of no one really explained exactly what happened. It was like an unexplained thing. So I wonder, not so much animosity, but I just wonder if there's something there that could motivate Porzingis to beat his old team and particularly to get one up on Luka. I think he has a big series. All right, here's another one. Well, hey, this goes with your MVP, so I imagine you're going to say yes to this. Jaylen Brown will lead all players in threes made.
Ooh, I like this one because I like the Celtics offense when it is Brown from downtown, when it's not necessarily Tatum pulling up every 6 seconds to try and hit a three ball. I like the prediction because I think Jaylen Brown is the guy that, Joe Mazzulla is going to want. If Mazzulla ball is to be played in this series, which 100% true it will.
Yes.
Then I think I like this prediction, and I think it all goes back to Jaylen Brown kind of taking the reins here in this offense, and we've seen what he can do when that is the case. I think it was 29.8 points per game against Indianapolis, something crazy like that. Or Indiana, I should say, my apologies. That's the kind of thing that's going to be really important here. And I think I'll toss another name out there just because we saw we saw this a lot in the Pacers series and throughout the playoffs. I don't know if this is necessarily going to be an NBA Finals performance, but you mentioned X factor for Porzingis. How about Drew Holiday being the X factor for this series in terms of the defensive acumen that he brings, but also the two-way aspect that he brings to his game, and that's the kind of thing with if it's three-point shooting, if it's creating, if it's controlling, if it's defense, that's the thing that's going to help. Joe Mazzulla said we're not trying to neutralize guys like Doncic and Irving, we're just trying to contain them. You can't stop them from scoring, but Drew Holiday can make damn well sure that scoring is difficult for them, and that's going to be what his role is in this series.
I think that's well said. I mean, listen, you could try to neutralize Luka and Kyrie. They're likely going to get theirs, but you can damn sure shut down those other losers around them, too. Exactly. I mean, if you lose the series because P.J. Washington or Gafford or Lively beat you, shame on you. So if I'm the Celtics, I'm locked in on making sure those other guys don't cook me. And you make a good point about Drew Holiday, too. As the playoffs have gone on and the Celtics has advanced through each round, it seems as though Drew Holiday has been more and more aggressive, more and more assertive. So
he's the guy that's been there before, Travis.
Right.
And that's a really important part of it.
Yeah, he knows how to get it done. He knows how to close the show. Look, for this one, I'm going to say Jason Tatum will lead all the threes made only because of volume. And I think you said it. I mean, this guy has never met a shot from three-point that he doesn't like. He is going to chuck in these finals. Whether he makes them or not is a question. He has not been shooting particularly well in the playoffs. All right, here's another one. You're going to laugh. Boston fans will not boo Kyrie.
Oh, my goodness, Travis. I don't know. I mean, have you met Boston fans?
I know.
I mean, we're both coming from the D.C. area. I'm however many miles away here in Wisconsin. I can hear the boos from here when Kyrie Irving steps onto the court. Obviously, the Celtics don't want this to be the main storyline of this finals run. It shouldn't be Tatum versus Kyrie. It shouldn't be, Porzingis or whoever it is versus Kyrie. It shouldn't be Boston versus Kyrie. But if that's an aspect that's going to give the Celtics an edge up on the competition, I say embrace that. And I don't want it to be a distraction for the fans on what's going on or for the players on what's going on especially. But I think Joe Mazzulla is a coach that's going to see if that becomes a distraction, he's going to nip that in the bud real quick. And I think the Celtics fans are going to be all over Kyrie. I think there is a good reason for them to do so. And, you hope maybe it discombobulates him a little bit. I think, honestly, if that does happen, it's going to take it in the other direction. And Kyrie's probably going to have a better performance with the boos raining down on him. But still, obviously, the fans are not going to stay quiet when Kyrie steps onto the court. But that's why, Travis, we call these bold predictions, because they are incredibly bold. And when you're talking about the Celtics fans' animosity towards an enemy, which we'll get to a little bit later as well, that gets really, really bold really, really quick.
Brother, I'm going to tell you this quick story. My first week here, I went out for some libations down there by TD Garden, and I saw several T-shirts that said bleep Kyrie. And I was like, man, obviously from the outside looking in, of course we can all see there's animosity there and there's history there. And I knew the story of him with the Celtics, however brief. But I didn't know until I was here and I saw it with thine eyes, the real disdain for him. And this was 2 years ago with nothing to do with nothing. Now we're in the finals here, so you know what's going down. My only thing is this. Just holster drinks and other hard objects that you can throw. Let's just cuss him out and keep it at that. I don't want the Boston fans to look bad here. They're already known for being passionate. What I don't stoop down to the level of, say, those gross Philadelphia fans. Nobody has time for that. You have any more bold predictions here? I gave you my best one with Porzingis as MVP. What do you got?
I think the last one that I have, and honestly, I think the best one, you mentioned Porzingis, I think the best bold prediction, as in the most bold, is the one we just talked about. But I think the most bold prediction, and this is kind of going away from what I just said about Celtics in 5, I think the boldest possible prediction is that the Celtics pull off a 4-game sweep and pull off an 8-game heater to win the NBA Finals. And that's including Indiana. It's also, honestly, including what happened over in Cleveland. So if that does happen, if Cleveland goes in, they win a 4-gamer to win the NBA Finals, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be the culmination of how many years of heartbreak, of how many years of this team doesn't have it, of how many years of Tatum doesn't have it, of Brown doesn't have it, of these two guys can't work together, of the Celtics are never going to make it back, whatever it is, wouldn't that be something? If the Celtics can pull this off in 4. I'm not saying they necessarily will.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, wouldn't that be the most perfect way to end a magical season, the most magical season that I've seen as a Celtics fan, which is this one right here?
Well, that's exactly what it would do. It would be a legacy-defining, legacy-changing run for the Celtics. At this point in time, everyone's saying, well, they haven't played anyone. Wait until now they play a real team from the West with 2 real stars, right? So if they go out and they punk them, all of a sudden the whole narrative changes that, oh, we just hated on watching one of the greatest teams that we've ever seen. I think that would change that. But I'm with you. I don't necessarily see a sweep, but if it were to happen, that's what it would do. That's the impact that it would have. All right, send us your tweets. We're going to get to them. Also, don't forget, hit us on that hotline, 617-790-0928. Let us know your bold predictions. Email us to chat@nesson.com. Let's go to the fan tweets because we were talking about Kyrie. And, of course, Cullen, the Kyrie hate is palpable on Twitter, my friend. Look at this. Steve tweets the guys who sell the Kyrie sucks shirts outside TD Garden for the next 3 weeks, just sleeping on a pile of money, Cullen.
I mean, there's nothing more to say about this one except absolutely. And I wish I was the guy that's out there selling those T-shirts outside TD Garden. I mean, you mentioned 2 years ago with nothing to say about nothing. These shirts were you were noticing them, and I've seen them too across Boston. Especially, I was out watching the games last year in the playoffs when I was in the city. Those shirts were out there. I probably heard a couple of guys curse out Kyrie for no reason at all. So absolutely, I love this tweet, and I love the Breaking Bad reference, one of the best shows that I've ever seen. So yeah, this is a great one. I just wish I was the guy who was out there selling the shirts.
Now listen, this is a family program, but I have yet to see a Kyrie sucks shirt. All I've seen is bleep Kyrie, but we'll keep it clean for the kids. How about this? HBK style, Kyrie arriving in Boston for game 1. This tweet's from Moody. I mean, listen, no doubt about it. I just said I hope they don't throw drinks, but I guess if you're going to, it should land perfectly on Kyrie the way that it landed perfectly on HBK. The only difference would be HBK was unbothered and inspired by it. I think Kyrie would be disgusted by it.
Yeah, this is a tweet, I'm pretty much with you in this camp that I don't want to see any drinks being tossed. I don't want to see anything else being thrown, any really, really horrible verbal abuse being thrown that crosses that line that we always talk about. So yeah, I mean, I think we keep it to the court, to what's going on, and then when Kyrie comes out there, you can boo him, you can curse him, you can say this, you can say that, but let's stay respectful about it, or not respectful necessarily, but let's stay within the boundaries. How about that? And if you do have a drink, throw it on a Dallas fan. Don't throw it on Kyrie.
I love Cullen. All right, next one. This is from MFFL. Kyrie on Thursday doing the Mike Jack on Lucky. I mean, man, this guy stomping Lucky it's just unforgivable, isn't it, Cullen? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Remember what happened when T.O. stepped on the Dallas Star? Oh. However many years ago that was? Yeah. This is easy. If this does happen, there's going to be a lot of animosity on the court. But I also think that him doing this, and from what we've seen about this team, is that if he does this, if he disrespects the city, if he disrespects whatever, there's going to be a lot of retribution out there on the court. And honestly, we've talked about this before. Remember in the Cavs series and the Heat series when Tatum was getting tossed around, we said, show what you can do by scoring points, by showing what you can do on the court. I think if Kyrie comes out there, does that on center court, how about you drop 130 points on him and win game 1? That's all I need to see if Kyrie comes out there and disrespects you like that.
Yeah, listen, I don't think he's going to come out and disrespect the court anymore. I think that's old news, yesterday's paper. But what I could see is him coming out, so inspired by the hate.
Sure.
And like
Yeah.
absolutely balling out, like just
Right.
doing whatever he wants to the Celtics. And I'm totally fine with that as long as the Mavericks lose. I think that is the most
Sure.
important piece. If Kyrie goes off on you and you win the game, who cares, right? So maybe, if anything, it could get the Mavericks out of the team game because Kyrie's cooking so much. So look, while we're talking about hated athletes in Boston,
Yep.
I mean, Kyrie's got to be, top of the list. If we were to do a top 3, top 5, top 10, he's got to be in all of it. So, let's throw out a couple more who come to mind. Obviously, Kyrie will start there. First one top of mind for me, Colin's Derek Jeter. I feel like every opposing team's ballpark and fan base hated Derek Jeter when the Yankees came to town. I cannot imagine, even though I was not here during that time, I can't imagine any city, any place, any fan base hates Derek Jeter more than this one here in Boston.
Absolutely not, and they shouldn't. I mean, Jeter and one of my picks, who I'll just mention now, A-Rod, they were the faces of the evil empire for however many years, and that evil empire, clowned on Boston a few times. And just talking about A-Rod for just a second, the Jason Varitek infamous picture of them grappling after A-Rod did whatever he did in that game. I think that was back in either 2006 or something like that. And that's an infamous moment in Boston sports history when Varitek comes out there and just shoves him and grapples him and does all of this stuff. So yeah, I think though that evil empire, we can expand that to the entire team back in the early 2000s, in the mid to late 2000s, basically that entire decade, honestly, when the Yankees were winning championship upon championship and really taking it to the Boston Red Sox. So yeah, all of these Yankees guys, when you talk to an old school Red Sox fan, you mentioned Jeter, you mentioned A-Rod, they're ready to start going and start talking about him. For one of my next guys, this isn't necessarily an athlete because obviously he isn't an athlete, but Roger Goodell is who I put at the top of my list.
Yeah.
And look, for reasons we've gotten to before, we've talked about before, Goodell is the guy that tried his hardest to sabotage Tom Brady, to sabotage the New England Patriots. Remember Deflategate, even, Spygate was a little bit of a different story. Deflategate's really the big one here. When it was the suspension, it was seen that, he was really trying to get his licks at the New England Patriots. And he's a representative of the owners. The owners didn't like what the Patriots were doing. All of these things, we've talked about Deflategate on numerous occasions. Yeah. But I think that the most interesting part of this is that the legacy of the two people and that were involved in Deflategate, Brady and Goodell, Brady's legacy remained completely intact among New Englanders, and Goodell's legacy was completely trashed. So in the grand scheme of things, Tom Brady and the Patriots won their fight with Goodell. But you mentioned Goodell to any Patriots fan, and the first thing they're going to do is spit on the ground when they hear that name.
I never understood why Roger Goodell hated the Patriots so much. When you look at like the facts and just even up until present day, outside of the obvious Aaron Hernandez, right? We understand that, but outside of that, I feel like the Patriots, compared to some of these other teams and some of these other athletes and what they've done in terms of their bad deeds on and off the field, the Patriots look like choir boys. So I never really got why Roger Goodell hated these guys so much, especially Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. All right, I'm going Eli Manning here. Listen.
Yep.
His whole legacy, his whole career is based off of beating Brady when it mattered most, not once but twice. The helmet catch is ridiculous. I was talking about this with some of my boys out in the content center earlier today, where I was like, I even think that sideline throw to Mario Manningham doesn't get talked about enough. That was ridiculous. This dude just kept pulling a rabbit out of a hat again and again against the Patriots. And how Eli of him. Peyton had all the stats, only beat the Patriots once or twice when it counted. But Eli didn't have the stats. Really, if you look at it, kind of had a mediocre-ish career, but twice he got it done when it counted, and that's his entire career. He's a Hall of Famer because of that, and you know it.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing, that Tyree helmet catch,
Yep.
the call by Joe Buck, and then the reaction on the sideline, the reaction when the Giants ended up winning that Super Bowl. That whole fiasco in New England was a sight to see. And Eli, I think the kind of the cherry on top of this pain Sunday for the Patriots is that, like you said, Eli wasn't necessarily a world-beating quarterback in his NFL career, but he did turn it on, and the team turned it on when they played New England in the biggest moment. So I think that's a good pick. I actually went a different direction with this one, and this is a guy that I had thought of when I saw this prompt, Bernard Pollard. And I did some more research on this. I remember I was just getting kind of into the NFL. The 2012 hit on Gronkowski. Yeah. I was just kind of getting to the NFL. I saw this hit, and I was like, oh my goodness, like he was severely limited. Gronkowski was, and that, we didn't talk about the Giants. That had a ripple effect there. But then I did some more research on this. Pollard was the guy that tore Brady's ACL. Remember back in 2008. So that's where, like, he has a laundry list of moments throughout Patriots history where he injures the biggest stars.
Yeah, I covered him when I was in Baltimore, and he was on the Ravens, and he was an absolute menace, and he knew it. I mean, he knew every second of it. All right, so we brought this up at the top of the show. Chennedy Carter taking out Caitlin Clark. It has been reassessed now retroactively, and it's a flagrant one for that hip check. But then she goes on social media and says this, quote, Cullen, beside three-point shooting, what does she bring to the table, man? And I'm like, I don't know, ratings, interest. Like, what are you doing? And by the way, let's put some respect on Caitlin Clark's name. She brings more than three-point shooting. She's a tremendous passer.
Yes.
She can shoot the lights out. She's a tenacious, I think, just competitor, period. And evident by how she's getting thrown around in this league, and she keeps getting back up and coming at you. I've seen her hit a game winner. I mean, she's going to be a great WNBA player. It's clearly going to take some time to get all these other players off of her back, because that's what's going on here. I mean, what's going on? Is this jealousy, you think?
I don't know if it's necessarily jealousy. I think this is just Chennedy Carter being the type of player that she has been for a pretty long time. And that's not necessarily a knock on her. That's just the game that she plays. I think the knock on her comes when in this situation, right? You watch the clip from all of the angles. There was absolutely no reason for this hit, and that's why it was adjusted to be a flagrant. But also you consider the quotes afterward. One, a reporter tried to ask her. She said, I'm not answering any Caitlin Clark questions. Like, it's insane to her that any reporter would love to get to the bottom of what just happened here. And then she says, what does she bring to the game other than 3-point shooting? I don't know. Like I said before, notoriety. Like you said, ratings. You said attention. You said tweets. You said this. So yeah, like Chennedy Carter's obviously in some kind of delusional dreamland in which Caitlin Clark is, one, not a good basketball player, and two, not important to the success in the future of the league that Chennedy Carter plays in. So yeah, I think maybe there's a little bit of jealousy here. I think a lot of it is just competitiveness, and I think a lot of it is, and I think this is really important too, is that beefs are fun in sports, right?
Yes.
Like we've seen this in the NBA. We mentioned rivalries, Red Sox, Yankees. You see it in hockey too, with Brad Marchand and every single other player on the other team. Like that's what makes sports fun. And I think the WNBA getting to that point is a good thing, but I don't think Clark getting pushed around because of it is something that's necessarily helpful for the game as a whole. There's a way to do this without, potentially injuring the greatest star, one of the best stars that this league has seen in a long time. So is it jealousy? Maybe. Is it Chennedy Clark just kind of taking out something or Chennedy Carter, I should say, taking something out on Caitlin Clark? That's probably what it is. I think she's a little bit misguided here.
Well, Kennedy's messing up the money, because I'm telling you right now, if Caitlin Clark gets hurt, this whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket. So I actually would like to see some more teammates come to Caitlin Clark's aid a little bit more than I have. It doesn't really seem like that's happening much. And listen, if I'm a bench player on the Fever, let me be clear. That is my job. As soon as I see someone messing with Caitlin Clark, which is a nightly occurrence, I am going out there. I don't care if I get fined, suspended, whatevs. I'm going out there strictly for beef. to make sure I send a message, because some of this is this, where no one's coming to her aid, and there are no repercussions from a player standpoint. So I would go out and make an example of somebody to send a message to the rest of the league. You got to leave my star player alone. All right, let's move on here to the winners and losers of the weekend. I just want to start this off with the Florida Panthers, brother. Now, you and I have talked hockey before, and I told you there was and we know all the top dogs in the Eastern Conference all year long, but I thought for my money, the Florida Panthers were the best team in the East simply because they were the most balanced. I love what I saw from them defensively. They could score with you with Kachuk and others. They're well coached. They can adjust. I mean, I watched this team all year. If they played a defensive team, they could play low and slow and win a low-scoring game where they hit you all over the place. And then you just got to hope that Bob holds up in goal, which usually he did. And then offensively, I watched them beat teams like the Leafs in a 6-5 hockey game. I mean, they could score with you too. So I thought because of that dichotomy, I thought because they can strap up and play defense when they need to, or if you want to track meet on the ice, they can make that happen too. It just felt like they were a complete team. Voila, they win the East. And by the way, I think they win the Stanley Cup Finals this time around.
Yeah, I think, our winner is both the Panthers, but I'll say for my winner also is just myself personally. I was up there, I was watching the game, cheering, I was excited when the Panthers beat the Rangers. Now I'm from nowhere near Florida, I'm from Washington, D.C., but seeing this Rangers team lose was fantastic. But I think also kind of deeper for the Panthers, it's seeing that a team that can play physical, stable hockey can win against a team that has the high-flying offense and special teams that the Rangers do have. You remember just watching the end of the game of Game 6 that the Panthers contained the puck for the final 90 seconds after the Rangers scored to make it a one-goal game. They did not give it up. They held the puck on the boards. They watched the time count down from 15, and that's how they won. You utilize strong goaltending, key goal scorers, and then excess physicality that is within the confines of the rules. If the Panthers were going out there and throwing 5-minute majors all over creation, the Rangers would exploit that and score on every single power play because that's just what they do.
That's right.
The Panthers getting the win in a great, stable fashion was really cool, and I like their chances here in the Cup.
Yep. For everything Celtics, make sure you check out Hold My Banner, full episode on YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Colin, give me your losers for the weekend.
I'm going to beat a dead horse here because I want to beat this dead horse. My loser is the New York Rangers. And Sean McDonough on ESPN said this as succinctly as I ever could say it myself. I guess the President's Trophy does not really matter. And did it matter for the Rangers? Absolutely not. Seeing them skate off the ice in despair and disappointment was the highlight of my weekend. Yes, I am being a pure hater. Yes, I'm biased. Whatever. I do not care. Seeing the Rangers lose, absolutely fantastic. Yes, maybe the Panthers aren't the cleanest team in the league either. I do not care. The Rangers losing and not going to the Cup is the best thing that could have happened in these Stanley Cup playoffs. One, after they swept my Washington Capitals in round one, but two, after seeing Jacob Trouba throw elbows up and down and up the ice and seeing Matt Rempe lay crunching hits that are illegal and cause injuries every time he's out there. Yes, I wanted to see the Rangers lose, and I was happy that they did.
Bro, you had some real passion on that, huh? You really not? You don't like the Rangers, do you?
Nope.
I could tell. Listen, I'm going to go WNBA players not named Caitlin Clark for my loser. Listen, it's simple. We just talked about this. What's she bringing to the game? Charter flights. All your salaries are going to go up soon. I mean, that's going to happen soon. You're eating all kinds of steaks and scrimps. I mean, what are you doing? Don't beat her up. I understand wanting to make a name against her. Beat her on the court. Put her in a blender. Cross her over. Take her to the cup strong. Get an and one. Scream on her like that. I'm cool with that. But this, like, I said this earlier to you, it feels like a bounty to me where these players are just out to, like, take her out. And it's like, come on, man. That's not the way to do this. Keep it on the court. Keep it the basketball. Keep it clean. I don't have a problem if you want to go at her and make a name for yourself with your game. But when it comes to like MMA moves, I mean, we got to chill out here on this Caitlin Clark stuff. All right, my friend. Always a pleasure. Khalin Kapoor, the great. I appreciate you, my man. I'm still waiting to do this in studio with you. We got to make it happen, brother.
We have to. When I'm done traipsing the country, I'll get back to Boston and we'll do a show in person.
Till next time, Khalin Kapoor, Travis Thomas, Boston has entered the chat. It's a wrap. Peace.